Hi, I'm Brian Kiernan, the Territory Manager for Energy Kinetics, and I'm here today to show you how easy it is to dress our boiler. We should have this boiler dressed and ready for install in about 45 minutes. Energy Kinetics boilers are shipped with your choice of an oil, natural gas, or propane burner already installed on the boiler, with the boiler pre-mounted to the stand. They arrive pre-piped, pre-wired, and should easily save you a couple of man-hours on your job. I've already removed the boiler from its packaging and arranged all the equipment boxes to make it easy for me to access the parts as I need them. I've also leveled the boiler base in order for the boiler to have proper venting. Now here's a few tips to keep your install moving smoothly. Before you begin dressing the new boiler, we want to start draining the existing boiler. That way the old boiler will be ready to be removed when you're finishing your prep work of the new boiler. Also, you want to make sure that you label the existing zone wires, the zones, and water connections. This will make reconnecting a breeze. Okay, we're ready to start dressing the boiler. And on the front of the boiler, you're going to find our quick install guide. This will help you through the installation smoothly. If you find yourself unsure about any of the steps in the quick installation guide, there's more detailed information available in the enclosed installation manual, or you can just call our tech support hotline for assistance. Now let's get started. I want to take one of the boxes the parts comes in and tear it apart and make a little protective workbench here on top of the boiler. All right, the first thing I do is install the plate exchanger, and it's labeled to where it goes, boiler in, boiler out. This I do to stabilize the piping as we continue assembly. Next, we're going to install the relief valve and the automatic air vent. We're going to use some of our supplied smart thread sealant. We only need a little bit. And the relief valve always goes to the back of our dynamic air eliminator. Makes it easier for piping to the floor. Next, we install our air vent. And again, not much needed. You don't have to make these extremely tight, hand tight, and then a little snug with a wrench. Now we're going to install our return piping. We supply you with a 1-inch ball valve and a 1/2-inch purge tee setup for draining and flushing the boiler. And always use the proper size pipe wrench. It's not necessary to over tighten. Now I'm going to put a riser on both the return and the feed so I can bring my pipes nice and even across for easy access. And I'll grab my level. And again, I add a riser and an elbow for my supply manifold, which will hold the zone valves. Now I'm going to assemble the headers, clean the copper fitting. A nice part about our smart thread sealant is that you can actually tighten it and solder it once it's tightened, and it won't affect any of its durability or quality. Perfect. Next, we're going to clean the fittings, and then we're going to put our zone valves on. Next, we're going to put the zone valves on. We highly recommend that you pull the heads off so the bodies are in an open position. They have an arrow on them, so you want them pointing away. Click the zone valves back in place, and they're ready to go. Okay, now we're going to install the dual guard control, which is a low water cutoff, high limit combination control. And inside you're going to find the probe. And it's very important that this probe gets set in the proper place. This is our probe, okay? And the probe goes through the control. It'll be set deep inside the well. We'll make sure it's pushed all the way in. Okay. And we mount it on here. And then we double check that the probe is all the way in and close it up. Next, we're going to install the domestic hot water circulator. We send you this pre-soldered fitting and piece of pipe to hang it from. It gets connected to the domestic in on the plate exchanger. We flux it up, clean it, and then we're going to solder it in place. Now we're going to install the piping for the water feeder, the backflow preventer, and the expansion tank. And with these fittings, you can either go out to the right side or to the left side of the boiler with your water feeder. This T is provided so you can run a nipple off the back and hang your expansion tank, which we'll do in a minute. Okay, and now we're going to install our water feeder and backflow preventer. Now we're going to mount the oil filter. The boiler comes with a bracket mounted on the base for it, and the rest of the parts come in a kit, or smart filter kit. It has an arrow on it for direction of flow, and all the necessary hardware. It comes with a vacuum gauge, now we have this quick adapter to disconnect the line from the pump if the pump ever needs servicing. And now we're going to attach the fuel line to the pump. We have a rubber grommet in the box to keep it airtight, so we keep that out of its position until we get everything tightened up. And there, our grommet is sealed. Now we put the oil filter on. We have this ring that goes over the threaded shaft, and then we have the filter. Now you always have to use a 301 oil or a zip spout oil on this gasket. If you don't, you will have a very difficult time getting these filters off. Do not use fuel oil. It almost acts like a glue. Now we're going to install our digital energy manager. Our first thing we have to do is loosen these 2 1/4-inch nuts, screws, and then we're going to slip the plate plank off. Then from behind, we're going to snip the packing wire ties that hold the quick connects on. Inside the Manager, you're going to notice that we have a pigtail of our 120 line, our neutral, and our ground. That we have everything else pre-wired for you. Now we're going to hook up the domestic hot water circulator line voltage, which comes pre-wired with a whip on it. The neutral goes to your neutrals. And then the hot, that gets installed under HW. Now you want to make sure once you're done with all your wiring, you tie the appropriate wires together with wire nuts to your 120 volt coming in, and that'll complete your circuit. Now we put the cover back on. We're going to tighten up the 1/4 inch tap screws. We're going to mount our Manager. On the bottom of the Manager, you have our dip switches. It comes out of the box set for an oil heat system with a chimney vent and no priority set. You just hang that on the 4 screws already pre-tapped. We tighten those up. And then we attach our quick connects on each side. On the right-hand side will be the outputs, which will go to zone valves, burner relays, and so forth. And on the left-hand side, we're going to go and tie in all our thermostats. I'm going to put some wire ties in to keep the wires uniform and help us guide them down. Now, 1 wire from each zone valve goes to the associated zone that it powers. We have that wrung out by stringing each one along and then hooking it up to the appropriate zone, which is marked with all of your zone connections, zone 1, 2, 3, and 4, and your domestic hot water. Now we're going to tie zone 1 in to the Z1 terminal. This is going to power our zone 1 zone valve open. Then we take the corresponding ground wire or second wire from the zone valve, and we're actually going to run 24 volts off of this 24 volt terminal up to that zone valve. And we're going to continue to do that with the rest of the zone valves. And there you have it. It took us about 45 minutes to dress the boiler. So if you figure your installation this way, you arrive on the job site by 8 a.m., allow yourself about an hour to get the new boiler into the basement. Once you've done that, unpack the boiler, got all your parts separated, you start to dress the new boiler. While you're dressing the new boiler, your coworker is preparing the old boiler for removal. Marking electric, draining the water, disconnecting the piping, okay? So if you figure it this way, an hour to dress the new boiler, an hour for your domestic hot water installation, including the tank and the circulator, you should have hot water onto the customer's house by noon. Proceeding at that speed, by 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll have the installation done and you'll be ready to head out the door. I'm Brian Kiernan, and thanks for watching this video.